All right, everybody, welcome to episode 65 of the Pickleball Effect podcast. I'm your host, Braydon.
And I'm Kyle.
Kyle of Dink Smash Media.
Dink Smash Media.
Just starting his own YouTube now.
Just relaunched my dead YouTube.
It's a thing. He is Dink Smash Media. Go look him up. He's starting a series this week, or you relaunched it this week.
I relaunched it. I did first I announced a giveaway with the Evora, and then I did like a mini review and gave it away. I've got a Franklin review in the works, and then I've got Hop on a Call, which is going to be like mini podcasts.
It's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening.
So I've already got a few people lined up for that. So.
Nice. Good for you. So who else do you have lined up? Franklin, that'll be fun.
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to tell who's going to be on the Hop on a Call.
Why not? We're trying to build some anticipation for you here.
Well, I mean, so I'm going to have Steve Dawson on. I'm going to have Doug Evora, Doug from Bread and Butter. I'm not sure who I'm going to have yet I'm sure I'll get Charles on from Proton. That'll be a fun one.
All the best personalities out there. Go find them.
I want all I want the good personalities that are brand owners.
That's great, dude. I love that. No, that's going to be a fun series. I thought the idea was brilliant, and you'll get different stories out of these guys.
I think so.
You bring a new perspective, different background, and you talk with these people a lot anyways. Mm-hmm. So you're friends with them.
Yeah.
And that makes the conversation easier.
Exactly. And that's kind of what sparked it. Was like, I talk to these guys anyway. And some of the conversations I have, I feel like people would actually be interested in what we talk about. So.
Yeah, 100%. So be on the lookout for that. That's exciting. For a weekly update, we're going to talk about Media Day as well for the USAP. That was interesting to say the least.
How was the flight?
It was so long. Oh, dude. My legs, my knees, my ankles, my whole body just hurts after that. I'm too tall and old to do that.
I was going to say, you're pretty tall if you flew economy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then, I fly by myself. I don't fly a ton. So I always get, I was with Southwest this time. So it's, I go in as a C30 or 60 or whatever. So I'm always in the middle seat, just squished. Anyways, it was a long one.
That's brutal.
Maryland's far away.
Oh, yeah. I was in the Navy in Maryland for a while.
Did you have to go back and forth?
In Southern Maryland, once or twice, and I drove from Southern Maryland all the way to San Diego to do like a PCS,
my goodness,
like a order switch, essentially.
That sounds horrible.
Oh, it was bad. When I got to San Diego, my mom was like freaking out because I had like 50 Red Bull cans in my passenger seat.
You overdosed on Red Bull.
I just pounded through that drive.
You've switched from Red Bull to
Ghost.
Yeah. No, what was the one you had last week? The Lost and Found.
Lost and Found. Yeah.
It didn't convert you. You're still Ghost.
Well, that was like a TikTok order, so I don't have it anymore.
it wasn't good enough though to convert you.
I probably won't order them again now.
Okay. We're still ghosting.
We're still ghosting.
So we have that. We have 3050. You got our thing there today. Mm-hmm. Kyle's Corner. We're talking Australia stuff. Paddle, Babble, and Gear. Need everyone's help to select what I want to do for the next review at the end of the month.
I like that.
Yeah, it'll be fun to get everyone's input. I haven't done this before, and I think I should get people involved more often, especially with these comparison type reviews. I want to talk about if we think people got the TruFoam review right. So every once in a while with huge releases like this, you get 10, 15, 20 reviews all published at once.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's seen other people's notes. So it's always fun to see these releases and see how everyone lines up. Most paddles, you'll get, a couple here, a couple there, and you are influenced by others more so than one like this. And so it's always fun to see if there's more variation on these type of reviews. I finally got my 008s.
You did?
I got the 16 and the 10.
Okay.
I don't know if people have really talked about those much. Most people have been talking about the 13s.
Well, I think they sent the 13s first.
They sent the 13s out. Part of the reason mine may have been delayed is because they were going to throw the 16 and the 10 in there.
Did you get the 13s too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just got noticed this morning they're sending me one 16.
Oh, so okay, so you're going to get it soon.
But it's of the tour shape, which is good. We can talk more about that, but I actually really love the tour shape.
So I'll give some first impressions of the 8, talk 8 versus TruFoam. Then we have to talk about the Ripple delisting because this is such a weird thing that happened. And then Diadem announces
the blue core,
another foam core that everyone's been developing for the last 6 to 18 months, apparently. And then for Q&A, we have some more paddle comparison questions. So, okay, weekly update. Let's go into media day here. I'm gonna do my best to speak nice and concisely and well. I'm a little tired. I got up this morning and tested paddles with Malia at 6 a.m.
Oh,
so
dang.
my sister-in-law is here. You saw her when you walked in. They're flying out of Boise. They're a couple hours from here, so they came and stay the night before they fly out. But me and I are thinking maybe we should just go test paddles in the morning because we can knock so many out without kids. So we got up early. And I just hated myself the whole time this morning. I was like, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And you just do it. You go, knocked out some paddles. So I tested all the 008s this morning. Got the numbers there. I haven't averaged them out, but I did play with them this weekend and aligned those a little bit in my brain. But I'm a little tired from that. And Indy didn't sleep great. And so I'm a little groggy.
You need a ghost.
I need a ghost. I need a ghost. So I just hope the thoughts I've been thinking about of this event and these other topics comes out the way I want them to.
Flow well.
Well. Okay, so media day. So I flew out, what was this? This was Thursday, midday, got there around 8 p.m., just basically went straight to the hotel, went to sleep, woke up, started at 8 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So it was early. And then, so we met, there was me, Q, and Chris were there, and then Rafa from Pickleball Tech Dude. Those were the YouTubers. And then there were several brands. So YOLO was there, Gearbox was there, Onyx, ProXR, and Holbrook.
So big brands,
I believe for the most part, were the brands that were there. And then on the USAP side, they had Mike Neely, I believe his name is the CEO. Then they had John Anderson as he's their chief engineer guy. And then the other guy's name is Carl's there. He's
the equipment guy.
He's the equipment guy, but does a lot of the meetings. He's a face.
Yeah, he's
people
the face.
recognize.
He's
Carl
the face of the equipment stuff.
Yeah. And so we show up there. Those are the three people heading that up. And so Mike Neely speaks first, just gives the vision of USAP, goes through some slides, just felt like a high school presentation kind of deal. We go through that, and then John Anderson steps up, gives us some comments on their process and how they think about equipment testing. And I actually really like his format of how he thinks. So he has the rules, and then they have an as measured by. So the rule is you can't have paddles that are too powerful as measured by deflection and PB core test. So there's this format that they use to back the rules and why they have different rule books. Anyways, talked about his methodology. He seemed really sharp, really smart guy. He's come from other engineering, big corporate jobs. He's been around the block, primarily in aero. Did lots of planes. I can't remember exactly what it was, but
there's a lot of aerospace guys involved in pickleball.
It seems like it. Yeah, that seems to come up a lot.
Yeah.
And so he gives a little spill, and then we did a tour of the facility. So they showed us the PB core test, how they get all the numbers to calculate to throw it in there, all the machines they have, this huge X-ray machine they have, and we went through that. And so it was really fun to see what's going on. The facility is legit. The company's called Element. It used to be called NTS. They do firearm testing and
ballistic testing.
Ballistic and
that's awesome.
So they showed us some of those things, and it was really, really cool. They seem to be a really smart bunch. They're doing some pretty complex stuff, and so this seems to be a really good partner for what they're trying to build. And along with the ballistics, they also do the regulation testing for baseball or softball. I don't know which, one of the two, where they have the BB core test. And so they adapted their BB core to PB core, which is paddle ball versus bat and ball or something. And so the first impressions going through the tour was it's really cool. The machinery seems legit, but there were some variables, just small things here and there, where, like, for example, the way they clip the paddle on, there didn't seem to be, or there wasn't a consistent way to clamp it. How tight? People were asking, how tight do you do this? They say, we just clamp the crap out of it. Like, that was their methodology. And we're like, I feel like that should be a big deal.
Like a pressure.
Yeah. And so there were questions around the difference of how plastic handles, foam handles might change things. And so that was one of the things that came up. Another one was they use those holeless balls. They asked, how often do you retire a ball? They said every 30 hits. How did you come to that number? Oh, well, that's what they did for baseball, so we just adopted it here. well, what did you test around it? And I'm sure it's fine, but when we asked some of these more detailed questions around some of the variabilities, it was just, oh, just trust us. Kind of deal. And I didn't
push the I believe button.
Yeah. And I didn't like some of those responses. Yeah. And generally I think it's fine. It's probably not a huge deal, but it was brought up that there's probably enough these small variabilities where you have compounding variabilities that might, I don't know, put the results might differ more than you anticipate or want them to. And so that was the first concern that kind of came up of their testing. And then, yes, it didn't seem perfect, but it seemed really good. Mm-hmm. It was pretty buttoned up for the most part. I felt confident about what they were building. And then we go back into the room and they give a little spiel about what they're going to do for the spin testing coming up and the people they contracted to do that. That all seemed great.
So is it not going to be the same lab doing spin testing?
They're going to do it there, but they're contracting another company to come in and set up the cameras. Got it. And then Element's going to operate it with them.
Okay.
Then we get to the Q&A, and this is where it got interesting and where I started to develop some questions. So the whole idea of this USAP thing or this media day was I imagine they wanted to get everyone on their side. Yep. They wanted everyone to see how awesome, how great they were doing and to go tell everyone everything's great. Yeah. Go cheer on.
They wanted some good USAP, PR,
right? Yeah, some good PR. And I think it might have backfired a little bit, primarily out of this Q&A. And I personally came out of it a little less confident in some of their responses. And I was, and here's why. So one of the big issues that we probably talked about for over an hour, and it just kept circling was, are you going to do destructive testing? The brands, particularly Yola and Gearbox, were very adamant on, we want some sort of destructive testing. We think this is a big issue that we want to tackle. And the USAP, every time they would say, like USAP, like acknowledged, like, yes, there's different curves. Mm-hmm. There's degrade to benefit that happens. But every time Yola or Rafa from Gearbox would bring this up, USAP would turn it around, but that's on the manufacturer. That should be the manufacturer's responsibility to keep things in spec after we test them new. And everyone was like, no, that's not. There needs to be some sort of regulation, whether it's a fee, some sort of penalty if we find that you're out of spec later, whether you actually do some sort of destructive testing and see if it stays within spec after so many hits. And they just kept turning it around saying, no, that's the manufacturer's responsibility to stay in spec. And they kept saying, oh, how are we going to come to consensus of what a break-in is? Is it 100 hits? Is it 1,000 hits? And they acted like it was this impossible thing to solve.
No, I don't think it's that hard.
Everyone in the audience had the same sentiment. It's like, is it really that difficult? Even if it is difficult, we need to tackle it anyways.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't very impressed with how they handled those questions because they're very legitimate questions. And these bigger brands.
And with no destructive testing, like that could be a play. Especially like the rec arena, people want hot paddles. So if your paddle passes and then gets really hot later, that's going to become a popular paddle. And that could actually be the way they like sell that paddle, knowing there's no destructive testing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which that's wild.
No, yeah, it was bizarre to me how they just deflected it back on the manufacturers and how they didn't act like it was a big. All they needed to say was, okay, maybe you're right. We need to look at this and think about this and come back with a potential plan or maybe some sort of argument against why we don't need to instead of just deflecting and pushing back. And it was so strange to me. And everyone in the crowd or in the audience was like, what? Like, how can you not acknowledge this? And so
you have to test it in some way.
That was a bit bizarre and was the worst look, I think, for them was how they handled that situation. And so it is concerning because especially for amateurs where destructive testing comes into play even more because they don't get their paddles tested.
Yeah.
It's only the pros get their paddle tested. If amateur paddles get hot, it's just hot and that's when it gets dangerous, right? And I hope that they can look back on that conversation and just reconsider the importance of the destructive. Rafa of Gearbox, I think he had a very fair ask. He said, you're putting a lot of emphasis and resources on this new spin test that you just demonstrated. It looks great. That's not a huge concern to the industry right now. Can we put that on the back burner and redirect those funds and resources and time to the destructive testing and tackle what we have now? And I thought that's
a great,
that's a fair ask.
Absolutely.
And I think it was right on point. That is a bigger concern now than what spin is.
I have not seen a single person complain about, oh, that paddle has too much spin yet.
Yeah. And so, and Rafa and Yola, all these guys we want to stay in the rules, but we need our competitors to stay there too.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be worried about us.
Yeah.
We're the ones that want to stay in spec. It's the medium and smaller size brands that may make it, whether they mean to or not, they're going to make paddles that are break in past what's needed. And so they need some protection and assurances that everyone's going to play in the game. Because Gearbox, if anyone we know, can go make a paddle that breaks in past what's allowable. And people can design around that if they're smart like him. And he might have to, just to keep up with the competition.
But he still wants to stay cutting edge. So
he wants to stay cutting edge. He wants to play by the rules. But if USAP forces his hand to stay competitive, to go and make these paddles that get too hot, and so we've done all this work to curb the power, but it needs that next step. And if they don't tackle that, it's almost meaningless, right? The PP core.
I was going to say essentially what you're doing is you're curbing the power at that test point.
As at a new paddle.
Yeah. So all you're doing is like, all right, engineers, find a way to make this pass at test point and then get hotter.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's plenty of smart guys that can make that happen.
I mean, even in the interim, if they did some sort of just penalty, of some sort of fine, do something crazy like $1 million fine, that's going to deter a lot of people from
100%. It doesn't need to be that much.
You might as well. I mean,
you saw what people did over $20,000.
Yeah. Just do 100,000 or something.
Oh yeah,
something that they can feel, something that means something. Something that means something.
Something that means something.
Yeah.
Something that hurts the pocketbook.
I think they'll look back at that conversation, and I know others are going to talk about this, and I imagine it's going to be a similar sentiment as mine. I don't want to come across as thinking this all is over, we're toast, pickleball's done, USAP's not doing their job. They are doing their job. They are going the right direction. I imagine they'll take this feedback and figure it out and do some things. But it was a little disheartening to. It wasn't according to their plan. I don't think they got super fans out of this meeting.
They'll take the feedback. We know they're watching now because the last time they did a meeting, none of the YouTubers were invited, so they know. That
was my thoughts for Media Day. I hope that they take the feedback and change their plans moving forward and understand the importance of the destructive testing. Okay, that's weekly update. That was my soapbox for USAP.
I loved it.
Kyle, 3050.
3050. So this is something a little more for once you get past that 4.0 level. This was taught to me by a local guy. The importance of hitting a shot, knowing that ball is going to come back, because you're at that level. When you're at 3.5, you get a put away. It's probably not coming back, and you'll see people give up on that point. They hit the ball and they think they hit a winner. The ball comes back and they miss it. As you get up in levels, that ball is coming back. Way more often than not. So hitting a ball in anticipation of that ball coming back and being ready for that second put away, I think is a huge tip once you get to the higher levels. And even at the lower levels, if you start doing that at the lower level, you're going to win way more points that way.
I love that. I think that's one of the most common things I hear as people progress in levels is that the ball just comes back more and it takes more to win a point. So yeah, just mentally being aware that it's going to come back, even on put away, speed up, all scenarios, and then start building that into your drilling.
Into your drilling.
Think combos. If I attack here, where's it most likely going to come back?
Where you should slide to be ready for that next shot.
Think angles, think second shots, and plan around it.
Exactly. Then you
not just be ready to react, but looking to react.
Exactly. Or the bait ball, like giving them a ball that you're expecting them to speed it up into a certain spot so you're ready to put it away.
Yeah, I love that. Get ready. The ball's going to come back. Start putting that into your drill combos. One of my favorite drills for this that I started doing just a few months ago is you have an attacker and a defender. You're just standing in front of each other at the kitchen line, and the attacker can only attack one spot. So I'm only going to attack your backhand, your shoulder, hip. I'm just going to attack that one spot. I'm just going to speed up there every time. Sometimes I'll do it off the forehand, backhand. I'm just attacking that one spot. Now I'm just going to look to where it comes back.
Yes.
It might come back to my forehand, backhand, and just pay attention to what the percentages are. Is it 60% here, 40% here? You're just trying to build up this log in your head where if I attack at this angle at this spot, it's most likely going to come back here. Exactly. And then you build that response into your game until eventually it just becomes
muscle memory. Yeah. Sure. You're like, go left hip, I slide here, it's likely coming here.
Exactly. One of the people who's great example you could go watch is Thomas Wilson. He's one of my favorites. Is he'll speed it up and slide before you even hit it.
Exactly.
And then he's got his forehand ready for the next one just because he knows where it's most likely going to come back. Ben does this a lot where he does this little attack off the forehand bounce, following the triangle theory, where he does a little 1-2 punch. Annalie does that a lot. When you start paying attention to it in pro games, you start seeing those combos a ton.
Yeah.
And it's just not built into my system yet. And I want to get that ingrained in me too. That's something I want to work on. I like that. Ball's coming back.
The ball is coming back.
All right, Kyle's Corner.
Kept it pretty light.
Actually, I want to throw in one plug in here for 3.0 to 5.0. So
absolutely hit it.
Jordan Briones just launched a course called Max Attack.
I haven't seen this.
So he gave me access to it about a month ago. He only opens it up once a month.
Jordan, what's up?
And I've been going through it, and it's really good. I think learning online in this organized structural format is a lot better than random YouTube videos. And so he goes through footwork, he goes through strategy, he goes through shot selection, and he just works your way up to more advanced stuff. And it's this really good just online course about attacking.
Nice.
And it's open up. It's opened up a couple days ago. It closes the day after this podcast releases. So if you want to go check that out, I'm going to put a link to it in the description because I've been taking it. It's really good. I have a couple of my next 3.0 to 5.0 sections based off stuff I learned from that course. And so, but it's only open a limited time. I wish it was just open all the time, but it's only open until the 5th of February. And so if you want to go check that out, there's a link in the description for Jordan's Max Attack course.
I like it.
Okay. Kyle's Corner.
Did you watch any of the Proton Australian Open?
Not as much as usual.
Okay.
I saw the mixed finals, and that was pretty much it.
So I watched a little bit of it. Congratulations to old Gabe and Tyson. Pretty cool. That's a cool combo.
Yeah. I heard that men's final was epic.
It was good.
But I didn't watch it.
But watching...
Who did they play against?
Oh, I have to go back and look again.
You watched it?
No, I only watched the highlights.
Oh, okay.
No, I actually didn't get a chance. I had lots of stuff going on.
Okay.
Personally. So I didn't get to watch a ton of it. But I did watch like some of the highlights and like their interviews, like the funny interview with Tyson and his wife in the hotel room.
Yeah, and then the beaches.
The beaches. Yeah. I was dying.
That is Kyle's humor.
You know exactly. It's perfect 14-year-old boy immature humor. I loved it. But what I did notice, because I did watch some of the earlier stuff because I was at work, the level of play is not quite what it is like PPA America yet. It's definitely gotten better.
Were there a lot of locals playing in it? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Tyson was there, so there's obviously
there was some big pros, but there were some people there was a lot of people I'd never heard of playing.
Yeah, there was an opportunity for people to get in the main draws at different, and not as much as a normal tournament.
Yeah, because I mean, our normal PPAs, it's the same draw basically every week. So it was cool to see different people play. But it's very apparent that like the level of the PPA in America is definitely a step above what's going on internationally right now, for sure. Okay. They'll get there, but it was fun to watch. But my favorite part of the whole tournament has to be Kwang Dong's brother, Nasty Nelsoning him. That was the greatest
thing. The Nasty
thing.
Nelson heard around the world right there.
That was he instantly became internet famous. Like the amount of times people shared that was crazy.
Yeah. What for those who haven't seen it, what was the story?
It's the first point of the game. So it's like
first point of the game, QD's little brother. What's his name?
I don't know how to say his name. It's with a B. I don't want to butcher his name. I'm gonna try. Yeah, maybe Bao. But so he's in the main draw. He made it to the main draw.
Did he have to go through qualies?
He did have to go through qualifiers. Okay. Made main draw. Then
first round, he's playing his brother.
He's playing his brother. His brother is left side, so he's up and he's serving. and
his first serve of a main pro event.
Yep, and he drills his brother.
Nasty nails it. It's so funny.
The best part is he like celebrates and then he like apologizes afterwards because I am sure he was pissed to get hit.
Oh, brotherly love.
Oh, it was great.
That is so good.
That's something I would do to my brother too. 100%.
So funny. I mean, he can't be very old. He's got to be 40.
No, he's younger. Yeah. So,
but he travels around with his dad and QD.
Yeah. When we were at MLP Salt Lake,
he's always there.
Yeah, he was there.
He's basically QD's drilling partner.
Yeah. So we'll I mean, he made a main draw. We'll see.
I want to go watch that match and just see how he plays.
See if I didn't watch the match. I only saw the Nasty Nelson and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
That? Yeah, that one's going to go in the history books.
1,000%. Then I just saw today, it was announced that Matt and Riley are going to start running it back.
Oh, really? They gave up on looking for better partners?
They're going to be playing in the next Arizona tournament, and then they have a few more planned to play together. My theory is with the Johns brothers splitting, they're like, now's our chance.
they're the only team we couldn't beat. So
dude, they were so close so many times. So I have a feeling that they're like, let's just run it back.
Maybe. Yeah, at the time they were the number 2 team.
Oh yeah.
There are more teams now that are competitive.
Absolutely.
Than I think there were then.
Yeah, I think it'll be tougher, but
I'm sure they'll be good still.
It'll be fun to watch.
Riley hasn't really done anything in a minute.
Yeah, he's just been hanging out.
Yeah, it hasn't won or medaled.
Playing with his money. I don't know.
Playing with his money.
That's really it. There wasn't a lot that went on because everything was going on in Australia and the time changes. And
yeah, Championship Sunday was on Saturday.
Yeah, which was terrible for me because I had a lot of work going on Saturday. Sundays, usually there's nothing going on, so I can watch
more.
All the championship matches.
All right, we'll go over to Paddle, Babble, and Gear then. So first bullet here is I want everyone's help to select what paddles I'm going to review for a comparison review at the end of the month.
C45.
Yeah. So, well, here's my review schedule for now. So we got the 11.624 powers, and then I'm also doing, that's February 7th. Then I'm doing a review for the Chorus Super Quartz.
I like this. Okay.
I can't remember the exact date, but it's mid-February. So I have a video for that one. And then at the end of the month, I'm going to do another comparison review, which is what I'm enlisting your guys' help for. So I want to do 4 paddles.
Okay.
Of the power-ish variety. So options are, you got the C45, the Flamingo, the Honolulu models. You have the 008s, but then we might, do you want to see a TruFoam in there?
Yeah.
I did a TruFoam review, but would you like to see that in a comparison against others? We could also throw one of the 11.624 powers in there. Maybe there's another one I'm missing.
I wonder if we can get a hold of the blue core before then.
Maybe that'd be fun to throw in real quick. But I want to get 4 paddles. So comment on what paddles you'd like me to see put in this comparison review, whether it's one of those that I mentioned or something else you're interested in. I want to find 4 to go and go head to head. I'm going to do the same format I did with the last one where I just talk about power, control, and then at the end,
that same 9-minute. It was 10 minute. Yeah.
9-minute thing. So yeah, I think I did power, control, maneuverability, market comparisons, value, and then just say this was my favorite of the bunch.
I like that.
So that will, I've started hitting all of these to some degree, and then whatever we pick from this video or from everyone's comments are the ones I'll move forward with and try to get through the breakthrough, get through the break-ins, and speak to those well. All right, let's talk about TruFoam. So we mentioned at the beginning that every once in a while there's a huge release like this where you get 20 reviews all published at the exact same time, and there was no comparison. There was no, oh, what did he say? I want to say the same thing. Because whether we, admit it or not, there's always some influence if
100%.
If you've watched a bunch of reviews, then you go review it yourself.
Exactly. If your review comes out first and somebody watched yours, your review might bleed a little bit into their thoughts.
It might bleed it. I think that happens. One is just people don't want to be wrong. They don't want to go against the grain too much. And
if you're like, this is great power, and somebody's like, this is trash, they're like, liar.
Yeah, and so there's some of that. Although I don't think people should worry about that. I honestly don't watch very many reviews.
I don't either.
One is I don't want to be influenced too much by them. And 2 is it's a lot of time.
I watch all of yours at least through the intro, just because I want to see what Aaron does.
I will watch some reviews after the fact. Once I publish one, I might go see what some others will say. I mean, obviously, I can't avoid them all completely.
Yeah,
but I try to avoid it's in some cases to keep my own perspective fresh. And I don't always agree with what everyone says, but anyways, for this release, I thought for the most part it was fairly uniform. There was, everyone agreed that it was this all court leaning power. Everyone really liked the feel. And a couple of things I think were over hyped, overemphasized was sweet spot size. There were several reviews that talked about that sweet spots being really strong.
Like you can't miss.
Like you can't miss. I didn't agree with that. I think the sweet spots are good for 14s, and that could be because of the foam or just because they're heavier.
Yeah.
So when you have a heavier head, it's going to make it a little more stable. At first, I was thinking maybe it was the foam, but now I'm thinking it might be a combination of the foam plus weight that was giving that little extra stability. And it may not be so much that foam was the reason they were so forgiving, like some of us thought of it was initially, but
because they were pretty heavy.
They're definitely on the heavier side, and that was another con I'll talk about in a minute. But so that was one thing I think was overstated a little bit. The sweet spots weren't horrible, but I don't think they were oversized. It wasn't necessarily a selling point, as like some reviews did. And then dwell time was talked about a lot, as if these paddles had incredible spin, incredible dwell time. I think that was overhyped some. This partly came from Carbon marketing. Carbon was very big. Oh, the dwell time on this is amazing. It just sits on the face. And I do agree that the paddles had a higher launch angle. It did maybe sit on there a little bit longer. You could pull the ball up. If you attacked low, it lifted it over the net. Your drives were a little higher. Everything was a little loopier. And maybe you contribute that to the dwell time. So there was a little bit of that, but it wasn't so much where it had game-changing spin. My spin numbers were good. They were a little over 2,000, but I've had better spin results from other paddles. It was just, it was up there with the best, but it wasn't better than other paddles testing wise. And things can get in our heads. That's why I like running these numbers a lot, is sometimes I get the sense, oh, this paddle's really powerful or it's really soft. And I go run the numbers and I have to adjust my opinion a little bit because sound and feel can make you think that you're hitting it
way harder
or softer.
Absolutely.
And so it's nice to have the numbers there. And I think if you weren't running the spin test legitimately, you would think you might
get more spin.
You might just go in, you might just bite into that marketing. You might drink the lemonade there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like the real pro of this foam paddles, TruFoam, is the durability of the core. And then the core is supposed to stay consistent. Like that's the selling point, right? Okay. Yeah. And I feel
100%.
like a lot of people were like pushing other things around that, which that is a huge deal.
Yeah. Like that was exactly, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was my next point here was, I think the performance of these may have been overemphasized in some. There were several reviews that got it right. Yeah. They realized the power of these is the durability. It's the no break-in, the no core crush. The foam as the platform is the future. I'm really big on these paddles. I think they're awesome. I think foam very well could be the future of core because of the durability factor. That's a huge reason. If we can get rid of that break-in, then maybe destructive testing doesn't have to be a thing for USAP.
Yeah.
But that is a big deal. I think the platform is that they're building off of is the big innovation here. And the paddles themselves, the Carbon 2 performed really well. It does have a nice feel. It does do good well there, but the paddles themselves weren't perfect.
I just got my Carbon 2, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah.
It's cool. I'm well excited to get your thoughts on it. But yeah, like the 1 and 2 were heavier for 14. So you don't get that maneuverability you typically get with 14s. And the pop was decent, but it wasn't enough where it made up big time for the little slower maneuverability. And so, and the shapes, a lot of complaints around the shapes.
Everybody's like, where's the hybrid?
Where's the hybrid? But this technology could be really good in a hybrid because it is heavier.
Yeah.
And so you have the little lighter swing weight with the hybrid. It makes a lot of sense there. And in some ways, I felt like Carbon was a little outdated
with the shapes.
And I know they didn't consider things like swing weight when they were developing these, which I think was a miss. Maybe they would have caught how heavy they were. And if you go look at any of the databases and you just go do the average swing weight for a 14 or even a 16 at those shapes,
it's up there.
You would notice how heavy these are. Yeah. And so I think the swing weights were a bit of a miss on the elongated. If they could somehow, I don't know, maybe mess with the design to bring those down a little bit. But Overall, I think the performance is really solid, particularly the 2. You can definitely manipulate the 1 and 3 to play well to your liking, right? But it does require some manipulation, some customization to get it to play at its best. Whereas the 2, you can just play out of the box. Yeah, I think you're right. That the big thing with these, the thing I'm excited about is the platform we're building off of. It's the foam core, it's the designs, it's the durability. And of course, the shape, the grit isn't matching the core yet. Yeah. But this is a big step in the right direction. Yeah. And a lot of people play with paddles for 1-2 years anyways.
Yeah, especially like the normal park going rec player, there's people that are still playing with amps, like original
that's
amps.
Not uncommon at all. You see that a lot. And if you had a better core for those players, that's a big deal. Huge. Even if the grit wears out.
Huge, yeah.
If you can keep that consistent performance for a couple of years, because polymer cores, I don't care who you are, you're going to develop dead spots 6 months to a year after some time, whether you realize it or not, that's happening. And so I still think it's a big step forward. But generally speaking, I thought people got the performance right. And to your point, some hit the nail on the head with the big revelation here is the durability plus the improved feel. And so that's that. People, there's more reviewers now. There's some really good ones now. Oh yeah, there's a lot of really good reviewers.
They're more, and then did you see that there's some ladies joining the? Yeah, I think they're going to Vegas too.
They should. I think it's fun.
I love it.
It's great having multiple opinions out there, and it's a whole different scene than it was a year ago. There's a lot of people on YouTube doing stuff. Okay, let's talk 008 versus TruFoam. I finally got time on it. You mentioned before that it gave you kind of all court control vibes, right? And I agree. These were definitely more control focused than the TruFoams. So I got the 16, the 13, and the 10, and the Invicta and the Tour shapes. This is the new Tour shape if you haven't seen it yet. It's an extra long handle.
It's the best shape in Kyle's opinion.
And it's elongated and then it has that arrow top. And then the Invicta is the same length, just has the shorter handle.
Shorter handle, yeah.
And square top. But they all played pretty soft. So I thought the 16 played like a Lux. The 13 millimeter played like the Vanguard Control / Vanguard Control Pro in that arena. So you were spot on there. Yeah, kind of that aggressive control.
That makes sense why I like it, because I have actually always liked that softness. Like the Lux to me is too soft. I do actually like the way the Lux plays, but I would never like main it.
Yeah, the 16's that way. It's
okay. Very plush.
Very plush. You can get too soft with the foam. The 16 I think is a bit too soft. It takes away a little bit of the feel there.
I'm excited they sent me a 16.
So what your thoughts there? The 10 millimeter, which is this one, very thin. This one was, I think, the most unique of the bunch. I still think the platform of the foam is a good place to start, but you need to give it, at least the type of foam that these guys and Carbon are using, you need to give it a little more. Give it some sort of design element to add some pop, and make it a little more lively.
Instead of just that plain.
So Carbon has the cutout plus the fiberglass to give it that extra. These are, I just think they're a little too muted, and they need something, whether it's more I don't know if there's fiberglass in here. It didn't feel like it. If they did have a fiberglass later, do another one. Yeah. Something to give it a little more. And they're just so light. Yeah. They're too light. I don't have elbow issues, and my elbow was hurting over the weekend when I was playing with them.
I had to weight mine up.
You have to swing so hard to get some action off it, and it hurts your elbow. And when you weight them up, it feels a lot better. But if I had to pick between TruFoam and these, I would pick TruFoam at the moment. It just gives you a little more. Unless you want a pure control paddle, you can go one of these, go the route of one of these. But this is in their lab stage, so I'm sure they could change and tweak it. My suggestion would be do something to give it a little more liveliness.
I do think this was an immense improvement over the 007. I liked this a lot more.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to mention. I'm glad you said that. So another thing I like about this 10 millimeter, noticeably more power and pop. But with the foam core, you can go thinner and it still feels good. Yeah. Like this still feels like foam. It doesn't, when you go 10 millimeter on the 007, you go 10 millimeter on a polypropylene, it feels
like a board.
It feels like a board. It doesn't feel great. And it's tough to connect with it. This still feels like foam. It's a little firmer, but it still feels like foam. And so you can, there's more ways to mess with it. You can go thinner, you can add fiberglass, you can do all these things while retaining a softer feel. So but the carbons feel great and they have the fiberglass layer in there. Usually fiberglass gives you a stiffer feel. You look at the super quartz of the course, you know, they have similar profiles of TruFoams, but they just feel stiffer. They don't feel as easy to connect with, whereas the carbon is very, very pleasant that way. And that's part of another element of foam that I like is you can do more without sacrificing feel than you could with a polypropylene core.
Do you think we'll see 8mm paddles using core?
Dude, I don't know. 10 is so thin.
I know.
Can you go thinner than that?
I think you can't. Edgeless, you could.
Maybe. I don't know. That seems tough. You do lose sweet spot though.
Yeah.
That's the drawback of going that
too
thin. Is this stock? I was feeling it. I threw some weight on there. I had to take the weight off this morning when I ran numbers, but felt a lot better. But yeah, definitely more control oriented than the TruFoams. A little softer, but definitely that foamy feel. Excited for Selkirk.
Yeah.
I think they can build off this. I think it's cool that they were one of the first to come out with a foam, and we'll see what they do with it. But yeah, at the moment, unless you want a pure control paddle or more control focus, I think TruFoam is still the play.
And the price is the same. So.
They're about the same. Yeah. We're gonna see more foam, obviously, with Diadem coming out there. We were joking how everybody's been
working on it for
6 to
12 months.
6 to 12 months, and it's like, oh, maybe this is just a Chinese innovation.
Yeah, exactly.
You're pitching it as your own.
The factory's been working on it for 12 months.
This is a factory innovation. Although the other foam cores I've seen so far are these solid foam. It makes me wonder, the story of the TruFoam made me think they were heavily involved.
Well, this is a great thing. X-rays. Look at this TruFoam core and look at everybody else's core. So far. Yeah, so far. These cores are all solid, and TruFoams actually looks like they
did something.
They did some stuff to it.
Yeah. And they, at least in the conversation I had with them, they flew to China. They had to help invest in different tooling and stuff to get theirs launched, and that's not cheap. And so it seemed like a legit story.
Yeah.
Seemed like they were the ones pushing that innovation, that NAM was doing all the designing here in the States. They're engineering.
Well, the thing is that it was so long ago that they talked about making the TruFoam that all the other brands could be like, foam. Like, yeah. Like, let's figure it out.
Let's figure it out. But yeah, those are the 008s. And the local guys here, Selkirk reps,
they all have 008s.
They're using it, and they're playing with them. Yeah. They like them. I talked with Lucas. He has a 5.9 duper. I was playing with him over the weekend when I was testing him. He's playing with the 008. He used to play with the Vanguard control, and his thought was play very similar, just a little more pop, and he liked that. The spin seems okay on them. They're not spectacular, but they're good enough. I think if you're a heavy spin user or rely on spin a ton, you might gravitate more to some others over these 008s. But those thoughts there. I don't know. Any other comments on that?
No, I'm just first Selkirk paddle I've liked in a while. It's gonna stay in my bag.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna keep playing with the 008?
Yeah, just the tour shape. I've actually enjoyed it. I'm like, yeah, it's good.
How do you feel the forgiveness is on it? Because the twist weight is lower on it versus the Invicta.
Well, I already have weight on it. I didn't even measure it.
But with the weight, it feels good.
It feels great.
I mean, there's so much room to customize those. Almost too much room. So you really have to cake it on there.
Yeah, I got 6 grams on each side.
Yeah,
and weight on the butt cap.
Okay.
And it still doesn't feel heavy.
Yeah, and that boosts up the power enough where you're okay. Oh, so I didn't put I put some weight on them over the weekend. I didn't put a ton.
Yeah,
but you feel like that really opens it up.
Yeah, I played well.
Brings it into the all court category and makes it a little more offensive that way.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll have to start experimenting with that more because I did throw some weight on yesterday, but I haven't.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the comment of the guy that's like, "Don't talk about paddles with weight on it," but like companies now know that we are putting weight on it. They're sending us paddles lighter.
It's a fine balance
to put weight on, though.
It's a fine balance because you want it to be lighter to customize, but you don't want it to be so light.
Yeah,
you can't play with it. And these are
the Franklins.
I feel out of the box.
I think the Franklin's close to that too. Like the 7.7.
It's tough to it's tough.
It's a different paddle when you put weight on it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, some paddles you just have to speak to both.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a line there you got to manage. Okay, let's talk about the Ripple story from Dong versus USAP. So this did come up at the media day. People want to know what their side of the story is with from this Ripple. So
Do you see your new nickname? Like the nickname for any YouTubers talking about the Ripple?
Oh no, what are we?
We are now called the villains in pickleball.
We are
because we're the reason that the Ripple was delisted.
So there's two stories. USAP has their own story, and it's contradictory to Rhombus, and so it's hard to know exactly what happened. Though I have a guess, and so Ripple was approved. It was on the USAP approved list. Yep. Dong he's the guy that owns Rhombus, gets written confirmation, I guess, that you're good to go. These are approved. Dong gets paddles. He ships them to retailers. He's getting ready to launch December 31st. Reviewers get the paddles. We all start complaining about them. We're like, hey, this is a mod. Yeah. Disguised as a Ripple and some. And then the day before the 31st, before the launch, Dong sends out an email to everyone saying, hey, we have to delay this launch. He recalls all the paddles he sent to retailers, and it was he was ready to go. He was ready to go. And so in his note to everyone, he said he got their beta approved. He got what he calls their production or R1.14 PB Core 4.3 version, which is the one he sent to everybody. He says that got approved. We ask USAP, we're like, hey, what happened? What's your side of the story? They say, yes, the betas passed. And then they didn't acknowledge whether or not they were influenced by all the social cries from us about, hey, how hot this is. But they requested some models from Dong to retest before the launch. So they get a new model and it fails their PB Core testing. They call it off. They said, hey, this isn't approved anymore. And so we're like, hey, what was the deal there? They said the paddle they retested that they had a request for was not the same paddle as the ones they tested before. Even though, and of course, Dong says, yes, that was the paddle that was tested. And so you have these conflicting stories. I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle. Yeah. And this whole thing's been kind of weird. Getting mixed messages from lots of different sources. And so I don't know what the truth is, but from my viewpoint, it seems as if he had approval. USAP is like, oh crap, did we make a mistake? Let's test these again. They test again. And then it fails. Yeah. So was their first test not good? Yeah. I know. I don't know who to blame. And the Ripple's been muddy anyway with all the different releases. Cause there's like the beta that has ripples, like visible ridges, then the one that didn't have ridges, then the one with the PB Core stand. I got 3 different versions. Yeah. And like how, even as a tournament director, cause like now you have 2 versions that are approved. Yeah. Are the original betas still approved? Yes. Well, that's what they're saying. So I could go play in a tournament with that tomorrow? Yes. But like as a tournament director, like that's tough. How do you know which is which? Yeah. I don't know. So, I mean, it's tough. And I feel for them though. Cause like, and that's the thing. They act like we all like wanted this. Like we don't like Rhombus. We all like Rhombus. We were just confused. We're like, if the mod is the benchmark. Yeah, no, exactly. You set the power level. Then this paddle gets sent to us that is obviously hotter than the power level set. Yeah. I don't know what happened there. Yeah. I don't know what the real scenario I'm sure he'll figure it out. He just needs to tone those down. Like the Ripple still, it'll play the same if you tone down the power a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. He's very familiar with that tech that he's using. I'm sure he can tone it back a little bit. Rhombus is obviously flirting with it. Yeah. And USAP is very on their toes. They don't want to make a mistake like they've done in the past. Well, no, think about it. You let the Ripple through, and then Yola, big giant Yola, is like, "Hey, what the heck? Here's my lawsuit since you banned my mod." Yeah, and so that is such a weird story. I just don't know what to believe on that one, and I'm just gonna let it go. It's not approved at the moment, so I am sick of editing. I was gonna say, and that's another that review. That's another thing. I feel like all the reviewers need to be careful what they edit when there's going to be multiple versions of that same paddle coming out. Yeah, and when this came up at Media Day, when we were talking about the Ripple, they warned us of using pre-production models. We didn't know we thought they were production. Every paddle I've gotten before launch has always been production. Why am I supposed to assume otherwise? Yeah. I'm trusting that the manufacturers give me a production model. And And then they kept saying, "Oh, go look at our approved list."
Yeah.
It was on there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know which one.
No, I even remember when we first got that first one, and I was like, "Oh, did you get the beta?" You're like, "This is a beta?"
Yeah. Well, I don't think he called it a beta at first.
I only knew that because I had heard a bunch of the guys in the Connect group calling it a beta.
I'm actually skeptical of that. I think that first one he sent us was going to be a production, and then there were issues with the testing, and then all of a sudden it was, that was the beta.
Got it.
I think that may have been a marketing.
Yeah, because that was the first time we don't nobody sends us paddles that aren't going to be produced.
Yeah, and
unless they explicitly ask us beforehand, and that's a whole different.
So this is the first scenario where I've had the same paddle sent 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah,
we'll see.
Weird. All right, Diadem announces blue core. I thought you were going to go to that Diadem.
I was going to go to Diacon until
that's where they announced,
but the Vegas thing popped up, and I was like, I can't do 2 trips in the same month. I mean, I have a real job. So
because you were big on that, you were excited to go.
Yeah, well, I went last year, and it was like a ton of fun. Like, you played at like the Diadem facility. There was like a big party with like open bar, and you just got to mingle with all kinds of people in the industry. It was a lot of fun. And they announced shoes and a ball, which I was kind of like, I was kind of sad.
I do like their shoes though.
No, their shoes are nice in that new color. The black and green ones are like super sweet.
Yeah, it looks good.
But this year, the big announcement was the blue core, which is going to be their version of the foam core. It's supposed to last 10 times longer than a polypropylene.
A lot of the
core.
Same claims that we're
exactly.
seeing about foam from other brands.
So, but it's blue. I emailed them, been like, hey, when can we get one? So we'll see what they say.
Yep, the blue core. They changed the color.
Well, I don't know if that's all they did, but I mean, we're assuming that it's.
I like to joke about Diadem because for a long time, I just feel that their paddles are overpriced, late releases of current technology.
Other than if you go back to that original Icon, that was different.
That was the first Proton.
It was definitely the first Proton. It was the first nanotech. I will argue that till the end. That sparked the revolution of using polyurethane as a surface.
Yeah. Yeah, they did make some noise with that one. They added rules to the USAP testing process because they started adding that friction test.
Yep.
I believe that was the
spark. Absolutely.
But yep, more foam to come and look at.
The year of foam.
Year of foam. We'll see what that one turns into. All right, Q&A. First one is from Kyle Pickleball. He asked to compare the carbon TruFoam to 11624 powers. My initial response is the powers are more forgiving. I think high-end power, top-end power on the 11624 is going to give you a little more, though you have to give it a little more to access it. I think the power and pop is a little easier to access on the TruFoams, though the top-end power isn't quite as high as the powers. But if I were to say, pick between the two, I liked the Carbon 2 over the Pegasus. The Pegasus power, their wide body shape is a little toned down power-wise versus the Vapor and elongated. And I think you're going to get similar or maybe even a little more offense from the Carbon 2, and I prefer the feel of the Carbon 2. It's maybe a small reduction in sweet spot, but not enough to go for the Pegasus. I think Carbon 2, I think the TF2 is the play there. But if you go elongated, I like the 11624s over the TruFoams just purely because of weight and forgiveness. They're more forgiving and lighter.
I would agree there. The Vapor's the move.
I think the Vapor's good, dude.
That's my shape of the year.
Are you going to try to put something together on your new YouTube channel for that
one? Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how long it takes me since I'm like new to this. Because like I posted a mini review of the Avora and people were like, you need to add gameplay video and this and that. I'm like, I know.
I'll get there. I know.
Like,
you got to start somewhere.
It's a process.
Good for you for just posting it though.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that was
get it out there.
I was like, get it out there.
Start.
Well, I wanted to do the giveaway, so I'm like, let me get it out there. I have more time to work on the Franklin one because it's not released yet. So I have some gameplay footage with that one.
Yeah, getting
beat down by Mariana.
You'll find your formula.
Yeah,
and it'll be good. Yeah, and plus the 11624s are just cheaper, so it's
it's $100. Save
$100 there.
Actually, maybe a little more than $100.
All right, next one is from Anthony Bustos 2204. If you change the balance point, does it affect the sweet spot at all? So they're asking if I go add some weight to the butt cap with a slice cap or something, that brings the balance point down. We know that doesn't change the twist weight or the swing weight, we just know it changes the balance point, but does it have an effect on the sweet spot? What do you think?
I would say a little bit, just because you're adding static weight. I would say it definitely adds a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's marginal. If your goal is to increase forgiveness,
I think you're always better to go.
You're always better to go
perimeter.
Here. But I do agree. I think there is a small benefit to the sweet spot by adding some weight in the handle, purely just having a little extra mass there.
Exactly, just more static.
But
weight.
it's very, very subtle. I don't think it's gonna save a shot that wasn't going to be saved before the paddle.
I think if your goal is to make your paddle sweet spot bigger, perimeter weighting is always the better option.
Yep.
I always do both, but that's more so because of the feel of lowering the balance point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I use the sides to make that sweet spot more forgiving.
Yep. Yeah. You put on the combos is magnificent, right? You improve the twist weight. That does increase swing weight, adding weight here. And then the counterbalance helps offset that, so you get the benefits of the bigger sweet spot without it feeling too heavy flicking wise. Okay. Last question is from Brady Hilton. How do the J2 Ti Plus 11624 and the Saga compare on drives? So I went and tested paddles this morning and I just hit drives for each one.
Mm-hmm.
So the 11624 power was giving me the most top end power. The Saga was Saga. I call it that video is just like I just call it Saga. The Saga it's not far off power wise, and I it was giving me just a little bit more than the J2 Ti Plus.
Okay,
and so the J2 Ti, my Plus I haven't put a lot of hours on it. That may change over time. I do have some time on 11624, and so I do think if it does change with a break in, it won't be too drastic. But yeah, this Saga wasn't too far behind it. Control wise, definitely less pop. But drives, I think the Saga was giving me a little more than the Honolulu, and then 11624 was on top. But it was all pretty close. It was definitely a cluster. You can call that a similar family of power level.
Yeah.
And then that was the last question there.
That was it.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Have a great day.